Hey guys, tonight we're pulling an all-nighter on the graveyard shift. The fog is thick, the humidity is heavy with cold dust, and the silence out here in the hollows is never a good sign. This isn't the city. There are things that walk these old rail lines and mine paths that don't care about a badge or a service pistol. Out here, the rules keep us alive. You probably won't make it to dawn after this one. I lean forward, tapping the dashboard where a deep, circular scar marks the plastic from where Officer Cole slammed his fist the night he saw his own reflection staring back at him from the passenger seat. That was years ago, but the scar remains, a tactile reminder that what we deal with isn't always human. The cruiser, Unit 31, is older than I am, smelling perpetually of stale coffee and ozone. The rain, a fine, cold mist, taps a lonely rhythm against the driver's side window, mirroring the anxious beat of my own heart whenever the clock ticks past 1 a.m. I'm running a routine 10 to 5 patrol check through the Black Valley District, the oldest part of town, nestled right against the massive, sealed-off entrance to Mine 7. The radio static hums low, a mechanical breathing sound that fills the gaps in the silence. Dispatch is quiet. Too quiet. Even the usual chatter from the state troopers running the interstate has faded tonight, swallowed by the sheer mass of the mountain. I check my side mirror. The reflection is clear. My weary face, the faint red glow of the digital clock reading 1:57 a.m., and the deep, inky blackness behind me. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. The dash cam light is a tiny, reassuring pinprick of green. The audience often asks why I patrol the darkest streets. The answer is simple. If we don't, the darkness spreads. With a perimeter guard, I've been on this beat for 17 years. I know the rhythm of the mountain, the smell of damp earth just before a sinkhole opens, and the sound the wind makes when it passes through the rusted-out rail trestle. It sounds like a name being whispered, but always too far away to confirm. I invite you to comment your location and local time. It's always strange to think of people watching this, warm and safe, while I'm out here wrestling with the ghosts of forgotten miners. Now, dim the lights, maybe crack open a window for that midnight fog, and let's hit the streets together. The actual patrol starts now. I turn off the main Black Valley Road and onto Copperhead Lane. This is where the rules start to apply. Copperhead Lane is notorious. It winds deep into the wooded hollows where the old company housing used to stand, most of it abandoned since the 50s. The most critical rule, the one every officer whispers to the rookies, is this: never look directly into the fog after 2 a.m. The fog here isn't meteorological. It moves with intention, clinging to the lowest spots, shimmering with a pale, unnatural luminescence. We call it the dust veil, the accumulated sorrow and lost breath of the mountain, rising up. It's 2:02 a.m. I'm rounding the bend toward the collapsed structure of the old Union Hall when the radio hisses violently, spitting static like an angry cat. Unit 31, dispatch. We have a possible 10 to 18, urgent need for assistance, at the intersection of Copperhead and the old rail line. Report of a single vehicle accident. No injuries reported, just strange circumstances. I key the mic. 31, copy 10 to 18, Copperhead and rail. En route. A simple traffic accident is a realistic anchor for any Appalachian patrol. But the dispatcher's voice held a tremor, the kind you only hear when they've looked at the details and realized the location is wrong, or the circumstances defy logic. The rail line hasn't been used in 50 years, and that section of Copperhead Lane is barely paved. As I drive, The dust veil thickens immediately. It's not just around the trees. It's flowing across the asphalt, like water. The headlight beams cut through it, but barely. The fog refracts the light into strange, blue-green halos. I pull up to the scene. One vehicle, a rusted-out Ford pickup, is half submerged in the thicket beside the road. The driver, a skinny, older man in overalls, is standing outside, leaning against a post, visibly shaking. I activate my body camera and approach him cautiously. "Sir, are you okay? What happened here?" The man doesn't look at me. He stares straight into the swirling, blue-tinted fog that now completely obscures the deep woods just 10 feet away. "It just stopped, officer," he whispers. His voice is raw, like he's been screaming. "It just stopped moving. And I couldn't move either." "You couldn't move your vehicle, sir?" "No, officer. I couldn't move. My feet, they just rooted to the floorboard." And then, he finally turns his head slightly, and his eyes are wide, glassy, and fixed on something behind me. He's not looking at me. He's looking through me. The air temperature plummets instantly. I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck rise. "Sir, tell me what you saw." I keep my voice calm, steady, official. "The worst thing you can do out here is show fear." "The fog, officer." It opened up. Just a slit. And something looked out. I resist the absolute, terrifying urge to turn around and check the rearview mirror. I know what he's talking about. This is where the rule comes into play. If the fog opens, it means something is looking through the membrane between worlds. If I look back, I invite it in. I take a deep breath, focusing entirely on the man in front of me. This is the procedure. Secure the witness, ignore the anomaly. "Sir, we need to file a report. I need you to stay focused on me." It had no light in its eyes, officer. Just hollows. And they didn't blink. And it knew my name. I hear a subtle, scraping noise emanating from the woods now, muffled by the fog, like dry leaves being dragged across asphalt. Except there is no asphalt in the woods. I pull out my notepad, maintaining eye contact with the traumatized driver. I refuse to look at the woods, refuse to look at the reflection, refuse to acknowledge the deep pit of cold dread that just opened in my stomach. This situation, a routine traffic stop turning into a psychological trap, is exactly what the officers before me warned about. They said the mountain demands acknowledgement. The rules exist because we found out the hard way that ignoring the phenomena isn't enough. You have to actively oppose it with bureaucratic procedure and controlled composure. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved. This isn't a crime, but it's a profound wrongness. If I turn my head, I solve the mystery, and solving the mystery here means becoming part of it. I keep my focus forward, writing down the man's name, Silas Creech. The scraping sound stops. The cold air dissipates, replaced by the normal, humid Appalachian night air. Silas takes a shaky breath, finally blinking. The glassy look leaves his eyes. "It's gone, officer," he whispers. "Thank you." The rule held. I didn't look. I secured the scene, called for a tow, a long wait out here, and offered Silas a ride back to the precinct, which he immediately accepted. As we drive away, the dust veil seems to recede, settling back into the hollows, waiting for the next patrol. But I know it's not gone. It merely withdrew its gaze. The drive back to the precinct with Silas Creech is silent, save for the low, continuous hiss of the radio static. Even after leaving Copperhead Lane, the air in the cruiser feels charged, thick with the lingering cold from the encounter. Silas sits absolutely rigid in the passenger seat, staring out the side window at the blurring landscape, refusing to look forward. I keep checking the rearview mirror, but now it only shows Silas's profile and the endless, dark stretch of the road. We are just passing the old, skeletal remains of the Four Trestle, a known local suicide spot, when the radio static changes. It's no longer random white noise. There's a pattern, a rhythmic stutter that sounds almost like Morse code, faint and deep, like a signal bouncing off limestone deep underground. Dispatch, Unit 31. Are you broadcasting any test frequencies on 154.900? I ask, keeping my voice neutral. The dispatcher, back to her usual efficient self, responds immediately. Negative 31. All clear on all tactical bands. You still have that minor fellow with you? Affirmative. Static interference is heavy tonight. We'll drop him off shortly. 31. Clear. The moment I key off the mic, the rhythmic static intensifies. It's not Morse code. It's a voice. It's faint, metallic, and impossibly strained, echoing as if spoken down a long, wet drainage pipe. It's too garbled to make out actual words, but the cadence is distinctly human, whispering, pleading. This is the mythic element, the signal ghost, a local legend about abandoned miners whose last calls get trapped in the coal seams and occasionally broadcast on our archaic radio frequencies. I pull into the empty parking lot of the precinct, a squat, brick building that looks permanently exhausted. I escort Silas inside, hand him off to the desk sergeant to wait for his ride, and head straight for the small, dusty archive room in the basement. The realistic anchor I need to find is the physical case file for the miner's wife. I need grounding, something tangible to push back against the creeping dread. I need to understand why the phenomena are so active tonight, and often, the strange activity spikes when a forgotten case file stirs. The basement air is thick with the scent of mildew and decaying paper. Fluorescent lights flicker over the tall steel shelves. I locate the Section M files, missing persons, 1970 to 1990. I pull the heavy cardboard box labeled M, 1978. Inside, beneath yellowed newspaper clippings and Polaroid photos, is the file for Eleanor Vance. She was the miner's wife, vanished without a trace 3 days after her husband, Thomas, died in a cave-in at Mine 5. Officially, the report lists voluntary abandonment. Locally, the story is that she walked into the fog looking for her husband's spirit and was never seen again. I flip through the documents. Standard police work, witness statements, patrol logs, search efforts. Then I find a handwritten note, scribbled on a scratch pad by Officer Dale Henderson, who ran the initial search. Henderson's note, search terminated by Chief. Found only her wedding band, lying perfectly centered on the old rail line, Copperhead/rail, 2 miles past the last known access road. The ring was cold, unnaturally cold. Felt like it had been sitting in permafrost for weeks. The air was dead, silent. No birds, no wind. But the fog was dense. The radio was screaming. Copperhead and rail. The exact location of Silas Creech's incident an hour ago. The location where I narrowly avoided breaking the first rule. The synchronicity tightens the knot in my stomach. I'm standing in the basement, holding a file that describes the exact atmosphere and location of tonight's patrol. I pull out a photograph of Eleanor Vance. She has kind eyes, but they are already haunted, even in the snapshot. She was about my age when she vanished. I sit at the central archive table, spreading out the physical files, trying to impose logic on chaos. As I look down at the map of the search grid, noting the proximity to the sealed entrance of Mine 7, the desk phone on the archive table rings. It's an internal line. It shouldn't be possible. The archive phone was disconnected in 1995 when the wiring was updated. The entire system has been bypassed. It rings again, a loud, jarring mechanical sound in the silent basement. I slowly reach for the receiver. This is a clear breach of protocol. You never answer a disconnected line. That's Rule 4. If the physical world breaks, let it lie. But the curiosity, the cold dread, is too powerful. I need to know if this impossible signal is tied to Eleanor Vance. I lift the receiver. It's heavy, cold plastic. Silence. Just a deep, muffled roar, like rushing water or grinding gears far away. Hello? This is Officer. Before I can give my call sign, the deep roar cuts out, replaced by the same strained, metallic whispering from the squad car radio. Now, however, the voice is closer, clearer, and infinitely sadder. Thomas. Thomas. The lights are off, Thomas. It's Eleanor Vance. Her name, her plea. It's undeniable. The connection is physical, emanating from a phone that shouldn't work, yet vibrating with her distress from 45 years ago. I slam the receiver down, my heart pounding a furious rhythm against my ribs. I lean back, staring at the concrete ceiling, fighting for air. The air in the basement suddenly feels suffocating. I realize I'm sweating, despite the cold. I look back at the file on the table. The photograph of Eleanor Vance seems to stare back, her expression now somehow resigned. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved. And the disappearances here in the hollows aren't crimes. They are transactions. She wasn't just missing, she was claimed. And now, whatever claimed her is using her voice to call to the current patrol officer. I stand up, grabbing the M1978 file. It's coming with me. If I'm going to confront the mountain tonight, I need to know the history of its victims. I need to know the pattern. I ascend the stairs, leaving the basement, the phone already ringing again behind the locked door, a desperate, hollow sound echoing against the concrete walls. Back in Unit 31, the miner's wife file sits heavily on the passenger seat, an unwelcome partner for the rest of the graveyard shift. I'm cruising slowly along the edge of the deep woods near what locals call the Ridge Line, a rarely patrolled segment that overlooks the valley floor where the old rail lines converge. The patrol radio remains ominously silent, but the private police frequency, the one only dispatch and cruisers use, is a continuous, low-level drone of static, like an untuned radio station playing nothing but white noise. It's 3:30 a.m. I need coffee, procedure, and daylight. I pull onto an unpaved service road running parallel to the woods. The road is overgrown, full of potholes, and utterly devoid of civilian traffic. I'm running a low-visibility check, standard practice for securing abandoned properties where copper thieves or squatters might hide. Up ahead, perhaps 200 yards in, the fog has coalesced into a dense, vertical wall, much thicker than the dust veil from earlier. Right at the edge of this wall, almost completely obscured by high weeds, sits a vehicle. It's a car. Not a civilian car, but a late 1980s model police cruiser. It's faded green, utterly stripped of lights and official markings, and deeply rusted. It's angled unnaturally, driver's side pressed against a large oak tree. My immediate internal alarm screams, abandoned vehicle. My training demands I stop and investigate. But then I remember the secondary rule, taught to me by Officer Cole. The one who left the scar on the dash never stopped the car if the only light is pale blue. The cruiser is sitting in the absolute dark, but emanating from a crack in the driver's side door, there is a distinct, pale blue glow. It's not electric, not a flashlight. It's an ethereal light, cold and constant, illuminating the interior of the dead car. I slow Unit 31 to a crawl. The realistic anchor here is the required VIN check. I must verify the identity of that abandoned vehicle. If it's old enough, it might connect to the Eleanor Vance case, or perhaps even another missing officer from decades past. I pull alongside the rusted Hulk, ensuring my engine remains running, ready for an immediate Code 1 emergency exit. The blue light is brighter now, pooling on the cracked leather seat. It feels like the light coming off an ancient, cold cathode tube. I put the vehicle in park, fighting the absolute compulsion to leave. I grab my mag light, shine it through the passenger window of the Hulk, and read the VIN etched onto the dash plate. 2F94W8A. I read the sequence aloud into my body mic, confirming the numbers. I radio dispatch, using the code phrase for an external database query. Unit 31, request 10 to 28, vehicle registration check, on VIN ending in A731. The query takes a full 30 seconds, during which I stand outside Unit 31, the metallic smell of rust and coal mingling with the cold, unnatural air around the derelict car. I glance into the driver's side window of the abandoned cruiser. The reflection in the window is what stops my heart. It is me, my figure, my uniform, my flashlight. But the face is wrong. It's subtle, but definitive. The figure in the reflection has the same exhausted gaze, the same shadow of stubble, but its eyes are completely white, like polished marble. And it's smiling, a wide, silent, terrifying grin that doesn't reach the eyes. It's not my face. It's the distortion of my face, or perhaps the face of whoever drove this car last, wearing my uniform like a cloak. I stumble back, raising my flashlight, training the beam on the window again. The reflection is instantly gone. The blue light inside the car seems to pulse once, softly. Dispatch finally breaks through the silence. Unit 31, 10 to 28 complete. VIN A731 belongs to a 1988 Ford LTD, formerly Unit 14, registered to this department. Unit 14 was reported stolen and destroyed by fire in 1993, but the official record shows the officer assigned to it, Officer Dale Henderson, was never recovered. Dale Henderson, the officer who wrote the unnerving handwritten note about Eleanor Vance's wedding band, mentioning the strange, cold air and the screaming radio. The rule was broken by the time I investigated. I stopped the car where the cold, pale light shone, and now I've confirmed I'm standing next to the physical vehicle of a lost officer whose patrol log merged with a supernatural disappearance. My blood runs cold. Henderson didn't lose his car in a fire. He drove it here, seeking something, and then he became the thing that watches. He became the face in the reflection. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved, and some disappearances aren't about being lost, but about being held. Henderson didn't just vanish. He was assigned to eternal patrol by the thing in the fog. I turned back to Unit 31, my hands shaking as I opened the door. I slide back into the driver's seat, feeling the immediate safety of my familiar cockpit, but the scent of ozone and stale coffee can't mask the sudden, sharp scent of metallic rust that clings to my uniform. I glance at the passenger seat. The M1978 file is there, open to the page showing Henderson's note. And next to the note, lying on the seat, is a single, small, rusted piece of metal, a fastener, the kind used to hold old police plates onto the bumper. It must have come from Unit 14 when I leaned against it. I pick it up. It is intensely cold, the same unnatural cold Henderson described when he found Eleanor Vance's wedding band. It's a calling card. I start the car and pull out fast, tires spitting gravel. I don't look back at the abandoned Unit 14. I don't need to. I know the pale blue light is waiting there, watching my tail lights disappear into the dark. I'm driving blind now, relying purely on momentum and adrenaline. I've gone off the service road and am back on the main artery, Route 12, heading toward the highest point of the patrol zone, the overlook where the sealed 7-mine entrance is located. I need altitude. I need distance from the low-lying fog and the whispering rail lines. The engine hums loudly, a comforting noise in the absolute silence of the 4 a.m. hour. I'm gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles are white. The realization that Officer Henderson's spirit, or whatever is wearing his memory, just stared at me through the glass of his own wrecked patrol car has fractured my procedural calm. My focus is shattered. I need to reestablish a realistic anchor, a definitive break from the supernatural. I pull out my flashlight and examine the piece of rusted metal I collected from Unit 14. It's just an old bolt, but the cold remains. I try to rationalize. The hallucination was likely caused by fatigue and stress, compounded by reading the tragic history of the miner's wife and Officer Henderson. I recite the police code of ethics in my head. Procedure, facts, reality. Then, the radio system erupts, not with static, but with a signal so powerful it overrides all channels, even the private internal band usually reserved for precinct-to-precinct tactical communications. It is a voice, deep and ragged, choking on static. Code 10 to 66. Code 10 to 66. Officer down. Repeat. 10 to 66. Vicinity of 7 Hollow Road. Need immediate backup. I'm pinned. The light is going out. 10 to 66. Officer in trouble. The most urgent call in the book. This is the adrenaline spike, the immediate shift from psychological dread to life or death urgency. I key the mic, my voice strained. Dispatch, Unit 31. I copy the 10 to 66. Who is broadcasting? State location and unit number. Silence. The dispatcher doesn't reply. I try again, my voice loud. Dispatch, did you receive that 10 to 66? I need authentication. A confused, sleepy voice finally comes over the main channel. 31. We heard the code 10 to 66. But it didn't come through our system. It came through the air, 31. Like a ghost frequency. We cannot authenticate the source. Our logs show no officer assigned to 7 Hollow Road, and that call sign is obsolete. I know the obsolete call sign before they even say it. The voice was deep, strained, and familiar to anyone who's ever studied the precinct's missing persons files. The dispatch repeats, hesitantly. The broadcast originated with call sign. Unit 14. Repeat, Unit 14. Unit 14. Dale Henderson. The officer who vanished 31 years ago, whose derelict cruiser I just inspected. 7 Hollow Road. That road doesn't exist anymore. It was paved over when they sealed Mine 7. The only thing left is a dirt track leading to the massive, reinforced concrete wall that seals the mine entrance. I violate the core tenet of my current sanity. I decide to follow the impossible call. Henderson may be dead, but his distress signal is current, real, and overriding my system. If he's calling out, it means whatever took him is still operating. I slam Unit 31 into a U-turn, tires squealing on the wet asphalt, heading directly toward the high plateau overlooking the mine entrance. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved, but the terror must be confronted or it will simply wait for the next officer. I cannot leave Henderson screaming into a dead radio frequency, even if he's been dead for 3 decades. The realistic anchor is the official police response to a 10 to 66. Rapid transit, lights, and siren operational. I activate the lights and siren, shattering the midnight silence. The blue and red strobes reflect violently off the heavy fog that now coats the higher elevation. I speed toward the sealed Mine 7. As I approach the final stretch of road, the concrete wall looms ahead, impossibly large, stamped with warning signs and rusted padlocks. I brake hard, skidding to a stop right in front of the wall. The siren wails, echoing painfully off the mountain face. There is nothing here. No patrol car. No person. No sign of a struggle. Just the cold, inert concrete wall and the heavy, metallic silence that follows the echo of the siren. I step out, service pistol drawn, aiming the flashlight beam across the face of the wall. I look for blood, shattered glass, anything. Nothing. But then I see it. Fresh marks. At the base of the wall, etched deeply into the dusty, gray concrete, are tire marks. They are distinct, wide, modern tread marks. My marks. Unit 31's marks. I slid to a stop here just moments ago, but a few feet to the left of my tracks, almost pressed against the concrete, are much older, thinner tire treads. They look like they were made by bias-ply tires from the late 80s, the kind Unit 14 would have used. They lead directly into the wall. It's not just that Henderson called from here. It's that he drove straight through the physical world and into whatever realm Mine 7 now contains. And then I hear the voice again, closer this time. Just a wet whisper carried on the unnatural drafts coming from the base of the wall. The light is gone. Unit 31. Don't follow the tracks. The sound comes not from the radio inside the cruiser, but from the darkness behind the wall. It's a direct warning from the trapped spirit. I realize I have approached the precipice. I am standing precisely where the missing officer entered the void. I holster my weapon, the cold steel comforting against my side. I look back toward the cruiser, remembering the final rule that governs this exact geographical area. The final rule: do not follow the rail tracks downhill. The irony hits me with the force of a physical blow. The old, rusty rail tracks begin just 20 feet to my left, running straight downhill into the densest part of the valley where the fog is waiting. They are worn smooth by decades of rain and time, but they are clearly visible. I am at the top of the slope, with the missing officer's warning ringing in my ears. I have to turn around. I have to leave the history behind. But the miner's wife file is on the seat, and I have Henderson's bolt in my pocket, and they are both pulling me downhill. They are the gravity of the past, demanding a resolution I can't afford to seek. I stand there, caught between the procedure that demands retreat and the professional oath that demands rescue. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved, and some warnings are designed to be ignored. The horror isn't in the decision to follow the tracks, but in the realization that I had no other choice the moment I saw my reflection smiling in Unit 14's window. I break the final, most sacred rule. I put Unit 31 into gear and ease it onto the disintegrating gravel shoulder, following the faint, rusted line of the old rail tracks downhill. I ignore the siren, the radio, and the screaming voice of reason in my own head. I am descending into the loop. The moment my tires touch the old tracks, the environment changes radically. The heavy fog, the dust veil, rushes in from all sides, enveloping the cruiser. It's no longer a mist. It's a sensory deprivation blanket. The headlights, normally powerful, now only penetrate about 3 feet into the oppressive white density. Everything is muted, muffled. I can't hear the engine, only the crunch of gravel beneath the tires, a sound that seems too loud in this silence. I check the clock for 18 a.m. I focus on the realistic anchor of navigation. I'm an investigator. I rely on terrain recognition. I should be able to identify the abandoned company buildings, the familiar curve of the creek bed, the massive oak that survived the last hurricane. I drive for perhaps 2 minutes, feeling the cruiser rumble down a steep grade. The road is slick with wet coal dust. I feel the disorientation set in. The tracks lead me out of the hollow and toward what should be the main town access point. The fog begins to lighten slightly, revealing features. I pass a small, dilapidated, 2-story wooden building. It's the old, defunct post office, where the mail stopped arriving in 1965. I know this building. I continue driving, slightly relieved to have a visual marker. I estimate another 90 seconds of downhill travel should bring me to the paved state road. 90 seconds pass. The fog swirls and then thins dramatically, and I am passing the old, dilapidated, 2-story wooden building again. The defunct post office. The realization is a cold shock that runs straight up my spine. I haven't driven in a line. I've driven in a circle. The loop has begun. I stop the car instantly. I check the clock. 4:21 a.m. 3 minutes have passed, but the geography hasn't changed. I grab the M1978 file and flip frantically to the map section. I stare at the sketched outline of the valley. There are no loops here. This is a linear descent. The road, the tracks, and the creek all run straight down to the valley floor. I try to confirm my location, pulling up the GPS on my MDT mobile data terminal. The screen flickers violently, cycling through map screens. The GPS cannot get a lock. It shows my car icon rapidly jumping from my current location to the sealed mine entrance, to the derelict Unit 14, and then back to the center of the screen, flashing the words, "Location unknown." This is the mythic element, time and space distortion. I am trapped in an impossible geometry. The mountain has folded reality around me. I put the car in reverse, slowly backing up the slope, trying to break the circuit. I drive in reverse for what feels like 5 minutes, maintaining focus on the post office building. When I finally shift back into drive and accelerate forward, the fog closes in for 10 seconds, and when it clears, I am passing the post office again. I am absolutely trapped in a spatial loop, designed to keep me contained in this low-lying, fog-filled section of the valley. It's a patrol route dictated by something else. I check my mirror, half expecting to see Henderson's Unit 14 waiting. The mirror is clear, but the cold dread is rising. I realize why the rules exist. They are not just warnings. They are specific instructions to avoid entering the mountain's hunting ground. By breaking the final rule, I have stepped onto the property of the thing that patrols the fog. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved. And the only way out of this impossible geography is to understand the purpose of the loop. I slow the car to a crawl, passing the post office for the 3rd time. I notice details I missed before. On the dusty front window, someone has drawn a symbol in the grime. It's a crude circle with 3 vertical lines running through it, the company's symbol for Mine 7. As I pass the building, a flicker of movement catches my eye in the passenger seat. I look down. The miner's wife file. It's vibrating subtly. I reach out and steady it. The pages are shuffling on their own, pushed by an invisible draft of air within the sealed cabin. Then, the static from the radio, which had been silent since the 10 to 66 broadcast, returns. This time, it's not pleading. It's triumphant. Patrol complete. The metallic whisper announces, clear as a bell. The voice is deep, raspy, and utterly inhuman, devoid of any hint of Dale Henderson or Eleanor Vance. It's a voice of grinding stone and ancient pressure. Patrol complete. The new assignment begins. The terror peaks. The loop isn't meant to trap me. It's meant to reassign me. The patrol route I'm running now is the patrol route of the things that guard the mountain. I've stepped into the shoes of the lost officers. I look down at the file, and my eyes catch a sentence underlined in red ink on Henderson's note. When the road stops, the keeper starts. I slam on the brakes. I must exit the car. The only way to break the pattern is to introduce a non-procedural action. I grab my duty belt, check my weapon, and step out of Unit 31. The fog immediately swarms me, cold and blinding. I walk toward the post office, intending to wipe the -7 symbol from the window. I must disrupt the geography. As I reach the building, I look back toward the location where I left Unit 31. The cruiser isn't there. Where my familiar, stained patrol car was sitting, there is only the thick, swirling white fog. I am standing alone, in the middle of a collapsing reality, with the smell of coal dust and ozone burning in my nostrils. I stand completely still in the choking, silent fog. My car is gone. The defunct post office, my only visible anchor, is behind me. The crunch of gravel beneath my boots is the only sound that proves I still exist in the physical world. This is the ultimate confrontation. Complete isolation, complete submission to the impossible logic of the hollow. I broke every rule. I looked into the fog. I answered the dead signal. I stopped the car where the cold blue light shone, and I followed the rail tracks downhill. I completed the ritual required to become the next missing officer. I realized the rules aren't safety regulations. They are initiation rites. They are the steps one must avoid taking if one doesn't wish to join the eternal guard of the valley. I turned slowly, sweeping my flashlight beam across the white canvas of the fog. I need to find my car. My radio, my records, my safety net. It's all there. Unit 31. I call out, my voice sounding weak and thin. Respond. A rhythmic, heavy thudding begins in the distance, muffled by the fog, but approaching steadily. It sounds like someone is dragging a large, heavy sack full of wet concrete. Slow. Determined. I raise my weapon, switching the flashlight to a low beam, conserving battery life. The thudding resolves itself into heavy, dragging footsteps. Whatever is coming isn't walking naturally. It's laboring. The fog begins to swirl, concentrating itself not into a wall, but into a figure. The pale, unnatural blue light I saw in Unit 14 emanates from the center of the shape, slowly defining a tall, bulky silhouette. As it draws closer, the silhouette gains definition. It is a man, encased entirely in what looks like dried coal dust and damp earth. His uniform is the older, darker green of the 1980s patrol, stiff with mud. His face is obscured, just a shadow beneath the brim of a patrol hat. But the eyes are twin points of cold, white light. The eyes I saw in the reflection earlier. Officer Dale Henderson has returned. He is the keeper of the rules. He stops maybe 10 feet away. The scraping sound ceases. The silence that follows is absolute. I level my weapon at his chest. Officer Henderson, identify yourself. Hold where you are. His mouth doesn't move, but the metallic, crushing voice, the one that claimed patrol complete, echoes in my head, not through my ears. The light went out, 31. The light always goes out when the assignment is accepted. I refuse to acknowledge the mental communication. I adhere to procedure. I need you to show me your hands, officer. He slowly raises his left arm. It's stiff and heavy, caked in dirt. He is holding something. It's the steering wheel from Unit 31. The wheel is detached, torn from the column, the center horn pad mangled. The plastic is cold. The sight of it is the final, definitive confirmation of my predicament. My car is physically dismantled, not just gone. Henderson's spectral form steps forward, holding the wheel out to me. You patrol now. The rules are yours. The others are waiting. I lower the weapon slightly. I understand the revelation. The officers who went missing, Henderson and others before him whose files I never examined, did not die. They were recruited into an endless, shifting patrol, guarding the sealed sorrow of the mountain. And now, the mountain has issued my replacement, and it expects me to take the post. The mythic element is fully realized. I am the current focal point in a generational haunting. The mountain requires a keeper, a police officer bound by oath to patrol the impossible geography, ensuring the physical world doesn't intrude on the realm of the lost miners, and ensuring that those who violate the rules are absorbed. I think some crimes were never meant to be solved. They are merely cycles. I look at the wheel he is offering. The steering column snapped clean. This is the new symbol of my authority, my eternal post in the fog. I look into his face, the white, unblinking eyes, and realize that the smile I saw earlier was not menacing. It was relief. Relief that someone else was finally taking the post. I holster my weapon. The fight is over. You cannot shoot a phenomenon. You can only endure it. Henderson, I say, my voice steady, accepting my role. Where's my patrol car? Where your wife waits. Where your light went out. You must check the tunnels, 31. The whispers are calling you by name now. He steps back, sinking instantly back into the thick, swirling fog, the pale blue light diminishing to nothing. The heavy, dragging footsteps resume, moving away from me, toward the top of the ridge, toward the sealed mine 7. He is returning to his eternal post. I am alone again, holding the cold, broken steering wheel of Unit 31. I turn and look at the post office. The sign with the mine 7 symbol is gone. The window is clean. The loop is broken, but only because I have agreed to walk it forever. I start walking downhill, following the unseen track, feeling the ghost of the rail line beneath my feet. I am the new keeper. I am walking my eternal patrol. I am the voice that the next officer will hear on the dead radio. I am the reflection that will smile in the window of a derelict car, waiting for a replacement. And as I walk deeper into the perpetual darkness of the hollow, I hear a new sound echoing in the distance. Not static, not footsteps, but a faint, high-pitched wail. A baby crying. My baby. My wife. The ghost of Eleanor Vance had told me where my light went out. The sound of the crying fades quickly, absorbed by the immense, sucking silence of the fog-bound hollow. It was a final, cruel flourish, the mountain showing me what I had lost, what I was now tasked to guard. I am walking downhill. No vehicle, no procedure, only the cold, broken steering wheel grasped tightly in my numb hands. The air is intensely cold, but I no longer shiver. The cold dust, heavy and fine, is settling into my pores, bonding with my uniform. I am becoming part of the geology of this place. The fog begins to thin, slowly, almost reluctantly, as if the darkness itself is fighting the passage of time. I can finally see the sky, a dark, bruised purple on the horizon, promising the distant, weak light of Appalachian dawn. The relief should be immense, but it only feels like another stage of the patrol. Daylight doesn't banish the darkness here, it just masks it. I hear the static again, a low, continuous purr, the perpetual breathing of the mountain. It's no longer alarming. It is merely ambient noise. I am listening to my own frequency now. I finally stumble onto the paved road, blinking against the weak morning light. I am miles from the precinct, miles from the sealed mine entrance. I drop the broken steering wheel onto the wet asphalt. It clatters dully, a useless artifact of the night's impossible journey. The tension is gone, replaced by a quiet,